Hello everybody, this is City Scrapper. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today I have a layout that I made using the January My Creative Scrapbook limited edition kit. And the kit features the Prima With Love collection by Frank Garcia. And I am starting off with a photo of my two daughters. And I backed the photo with some vellum. And I am popping it up with some fun foam. Oddly, there's a piece of tape on one of the pieces of fun foam, but I decided to use it anyway. Not sure why there's that joint there, but it all works out. I backed the whole thing with some pieces that are kind of scrap pieces. And I'm trying this technique. I just recently started doing this where I create a cluster on a piece of cardstock, and that way once I've created the cluster I can move it around on my background. So I attached down that, or I didn't actually attach it down, I just cut out and inked the edges of that beautiful frame, that blue frame with the flowers. I just love that. So I definitely wanted that to be part of the layout. I also cut a number of items from the pattern paper. These papers have a beautiful rose gold foil on them, and so when you cut out the cut aparts and other elements from the page, a lot of them will end up with that beautiful foiling, and it looks like you got them from an ephemera pack. But I just was able to cut out a lot of these beautiful cut aparts and other elements from the pages, and I think that they just look so beautiful. There are some pieces of chipboard that I used, that frame on the right hand side and the teapot and the swan up on the top. Those are all pieces of chipboard. The roses up on the top right hand corner, that is fussy cut. That was fussy cut from the beautiful heart paper that's included there. And then there's some stitching around the heart, but it turns out you don't see the heart anyway, so that's okay. I'm also using some of those wood grain pieces of paper that were included in the kit. I made a banner out of one of them, as you could see on the bottom. And now I'm just kind of fussing around trying to figure out where to put things. Those flowers are also included in the kit. They match perfectly with the papers and embellishments. I tried that little postcard out, but I didn't end up using that on this layout. I also had some photo corners, and I used 3 of them to put on the corners that were visible in the photo. I'm popping up one side of that chipboard so that it'll sit flat on top of my photo. And I love those little teacups and saucers. I'm adding that beautiful rose gold heart from the chipboard to the frame. And now I'm just attaching down those photo corners so I don't lose them. The photo corners were made using an EK Success scalloped corner punch. And I love my corner punches. I use photo corners on most of my layouts. Not every one, but most of them. So now that I have an idea of where I want to put everything, I go back in and I'm attaching everything down. I did take a photo of the cluster before I took it apart. I'm cutting back the cardstock a little bit so that the white cardstock won't be visible. And this is a heavyweight cardstock. It's 120 pounds. It's a smooth white cardstock, and I always try to keep that on hand for these kinds of things where I need something that is a nice thick quality to attach elements to. And now I'm just putting everything back again and just putting my ATG adhesive on each item just to keep it anchored onto the cardstock. And I have the camera, I have my phone off to the side with the photo visible so that I can just fairly quickly put everything back where it was again. And I'm using ATG adhesive to hold those flowers down, but it won't hold the flowers down in the long term. I do go back in again with some wet glue and attach everything. I'm using my dauber to ink the edges of most of the papers and chipboard that are in the background. And the reason that you don't see me dipping it into any ink is that I'm kind of just using what's already on there from other layouts that I've made with this collection. And what I did was I mixed together two of the Tim Holtz Distress inks. I mixed together Forest Moss and Picked Raspberry, and that made a dark pink color that looks similar to one of the colors that's on the papers, and it's dark enough that it makes each of the embellishments stand out. I'm getting ready to do some mixed media now. I decided at the last moment that I needed to extend that banner a little bit on the bottom, so I just found a little piece and attached it to the left of the banner. And now I am arranging these hearts. These hearts were fussy cut from one of the papers, and I used them on another layout, and I had some leftovers. So I thought that this would just be perfect to make a little banner on the bottom of the page. I just added some foam to the backs of the hearts so they would pop up off the background. And now I'm using my pencil, and I am kind of just tracing around to get an idea of where my embellishment cluster is going to be. I already coated a piece of 120 pound, which is a heavy weight, smooth white cardstock with some white gesso. Now I'm going in with some sprays. The sprays that I use on this layout are mainly Tattered Angels Glimmer Mists. I used to pick those up from Tuesday Morning when they used to have them. And I'm also using a Tim Holtz Citron color that is a Distress ink spray. I'm going back in now with some white gesso, and the reason for that is that although I love these colors and I love them looking bright and beautiful, they are way too intense for the colors that are in the papers of this particular collection. So I'm going back in with some gesso to dull them down and make them look softer and more like the colors that are on the papers. So it does seem like a shame to cover up this color, but this will make the background and the cluster go together. So I'm just going around with my white gesso. I'm running out of white gesso there, so I'm just kind of scraping the bottom there, trying to get out every last bit. And I'm covering up the sprays. At first, when you first put the gesso down, I feel like it looks like there's going to be nothing left of your design. But once it dries, and it only takes a very short amount of time to dry, you can see that the colors come through, and they do stay there. They're not totally covered up. Now I'm going back in with some modeling paste and white stencil paint. And I'm just following the places that I put the spray and just using this stencil. This is a Vicky Bouton stencil, and I'm just using that to add some more texture to the layout. I'm just going around and adding it. I don't want it to be totally solid, so I do pick it up and do it in sections so that it won't be totally regular and perfect. Now, I will tell you that I end up not using this background, and the reason is not that I didn't like it or I didn't like the way that it turned out or anything to do with the colors, but if you look at the top of the layout, I got too close to the edge with the color and with the modeling paste, and no matter what I did, I tried a few different things to try to make it look better. There was really nothing design-wise that I could do that would make it look right to my eye. So I do end up going back in and making an almost identical background. And I don't show you that, but just, just to be totally transparent, that's not the background that I end up using. And the other one that I use, it's so similar. The only difference is there's maybe a ½ inch difference between how high the cluster of watercolor sprays and modeling paste comes to the top of the page, but I was happy with it, so it was worth the extra time. So now I'm going back in and I'm putting another layer of foam on those hearts because they're still not high enough on the background. And now I'm going back in with my ATG adhesive and just making sure that those are attached down. Okay, so now I'm going to go back in with some flowers and other little embellishments. And now I am trying to fill up that bottom area, hoping that I can still use this background. It wasn't quite working out, so in the meantime, I decided to take care of my letters. I used these gold letters that are from a previous kit, and now I'm going back in with some Deco Art metallic Lustr in a rose gold color, and it dulls down the color a little bit, and it also helps the letters to match in with the other gold elements that are on the page. So I place those, one letter on each heart. And I'm happy with that, but I knew I was never going to be happy with that background, so I redid it. And if you look, look at the difference. It's such a small difference up on the top, but it made all the difference to me, so I was okay with it. I also put a piece of lace underneath the photo just to add another little bit of texture and a little bit of color underneath the photo. And here I'm cutting off the flowers from that heart. I didn't like the way they were sticking up. I do use the flowers, but with them cut off, I'm able to manipulate them a little bit better. Now I'm adding some twine to the tag, and that is a gold and white twine, and that was a gift wrap item, not a scrapbooking item. Now I'm adding some of the chipboard hearts down to the layout. There were 3 little hearts that I wanted to include, and as soon as I figure out where I want to put them, I take out my glue and attach them down because I don't want to lose them. I'm also attaching down that chipboard swan up there on the top with some glue and finding a spot for that little heart. These are these beautiful little rose gold hearts. You could see I added pink bows. One is right next to the L and one is near that turquoise flower. And then I also heat embossed some florals. I just had them on the layout. They're off to the left now, and now I'm placing them back on to the layout. I'm going to glue those down too. I just thought the layout needed a little bit more rose gold. The final touch was adding some pearls to the background, some self-adhesive pearls. I add the white ones and also add some pink and green ones to the banner, which you'll see in just a moment. I will put the link for the My Creative Scrapbook website in the description box. I hope you'll check out all their beautiful kits. Thank you so much for liking and subscribing, and thank you for all your lovely comments. They mean so much to me. I hope everybody has a great day, and I will see you all again soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.